This
Planning
conference
Board
will now be
order.
recorded.
As chair of the Tilton Planning Board, and due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis, and in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this committee is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the Governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We're using the GoToMeeting platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform. The public is encouraged to participate remotely using your smartphone, tablet, or computer at global.gotomeeting.com/join global.gotomeeting.com/. Okay, this information can also be found on our website at tiltonnewhampshire.org under meeting schedules and agendas. The public also has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting using your phone through dialing the following toll-free number: 1-877-309-2073 and access code 493-898-909. B, providing public notices of the necessary information for accessing the meeting via our website, the town kiosk located outside Town Hall. And C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please call 603-286-4521 or email web@tiltonnh.org, and both of these will be monitored during the meeting. And adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at that time. If you are a member of the public listening in and have questions, please write your questions down. And at the end of each agenda item, I will ask if there are any questions from the public before we move on to the next agenda item. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call votes. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each
Excuse me, Jane,
Pardon?
can
Yes.
you just also ask people to turn their mics up if they're not speaking? There's a lot of background, so
Yes, if you're not speaking, please turn your microphone off.
thank you.
And one other thing is that if someone is connected via computer and your speaker is on in the room, but you're also using your telephone, it will cause a feedback loop.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Jane, are you gonna be doing the roll call? Do you want me to do it? You're gonna do it?
Well, let me finish reading this and then you can do it.
Okay.
When each member states their present, also please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during the meeting. This is required under the right to know law. Given the unusual circumstances, we will dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, Leanne.
Okay.
I'm here.
And anyone with you?
My brother. One of my brother. Sorry.
Okay. Todd Odell?
I'm here.
Okay, and you're alone?
Yes, I am.
Eric Pyra?
Hold on, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep, thank you. And you're alone?
Hello.
Judy Tilton?
I'm here and alone.
Okay. Christine Dembinski?
Here, one person in the room.
Thank you. And Jane Alden?
I'm here, 2 people in the house, Pat Constantino and Kim Souls, and 5 dogs.
Okay. All set.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any members, are there any members of the public here?
Yes.
Okay, please state your name, where you're located, and
My name is Elizabeth Medina, and I am located at 511 Laconia Road.
okay.
Mark and Sally Buzzier, 1 Morrison Avenue.
Okay. Any other members of the public?
Yes, hi, I'm Tim Sassouli, and I am from Tufton Borough. I'm with the
Okay, thank you.
Pat Constantino.
Dennis Gaudet, AutoServe.
Stephanie Penny, 14 Morrison.
Roland Gamlin, AutoServe.
Sue Brown Avenue.
Chuck Mitchell, Town of Tilton.
Yeah.
Are you alone, John?
William Feinstein, applicant.
Chuck is alone.
John Scanlon, I'm alone.
Tim Pearson, Town of Tilton, I'm alone.
Jeannie Forrester, Town of Tilton, I'm alone.
Hey, this is Jeannie Oliver from the Vermont Law School Energy Clinic, and we're here for the applicant White Rock Cooperative Incorporated.
Tom Labrie, 15 Morrison Avenue, and I'm here with Sue Brown and James Brown. James Viverka.
Is that it? Well, welcome everybody. Our first order of business tonight is to listen to White Rock Cooperative Estates, case number 20-01, 2 White Rock Circle, map 10.
Dane, your mic is muted.
I can hear her, Tim.
Can everybody
I can hear her.
now? Okay. Our first order of business is to listen to the site plan review for White Rock Cooperative Estate, case number 20-01, located at 2 White Rock Circle, map R10, lot 27. It's an existing manufactured home park. They're seeking approval to use cleared and unoccupied space to host a 90 kilowatt DC solar array to generate clean energy to benefit the residents of the residentially owned community cooperation. Everybody has a copy, I believe, of the application. The planning board members could please look at it, see if it's complete.
Jane, should we bring the application to the board, or are you going to have them speak first?
No, we're going to bring it to the board to see if it's complete.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to bring it to the board. Is there a second?
Second, Christine Dembitsky.
Right, planning board members, roll call vote, please. Yay or nay? Yay, Jane Alden.
Yay,
Yes.
Christine Dembitsky.
Yes, Todd Odell.
Judy?
Yes, Frederick Senna.
Judy? Judy, are you online?
Judy Tilton?
Yes.
Okay.
Affirmative.
All right, any opposed?
Did we get Eric?
Eric?
Eric, Pyra, yes.
Okay. All right. So let's take a look at it and see if there are any questions or if it is complete. Members of the planning board? It appears to be complete to me. Any comments or questions? Planning board members?
I'll make a motion to accept the application as substantially complete for White Rock Cooperative Estates, Christine Dembitsky.
Frederick has seconds.
All in favor? Roll call.
Aye.
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 Todd Odell.
Jane Alden.
Aye.
Pyra, yes.
Tilton, yes.
Frederick Tennant, yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Eric?
Pyra, yes.
Okay. And now I'll invite the applicant to make their presentation.
Hello.
Thank you. Oh, Bobby, you go first.
All right. My name is Bobby O'Brien. I'm with Revision Energy. We're the solar contractor hoping to build on this lot. We're based in Brentwood, New Hampshire, regionally located, headquartered in Portland, Maine. And I'll let Jeannie kick us off with a little bit of the background.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jeannie Oliver. I'm a staff attorney at the Vermont Law School Energy Clinic. And the Vermont Law School Energy Clinic is a group of students and professors and attorneys working together to bring renewable energy to low-income communities. And so our goal is to try and level the playing field so that low-income communities can take advantage of clean energy that some of the more affluent communities have been able to take advantage of. So we are helping the White Rock community with this project, together with the New Hampshire Public Utilities Commission, which has provided this project with some financial assistance to make it financially feasible. And we are providing all of our services pro bono. I'm joined here today with a number of our students, so I just wanted to let you know that they are also sitting in on this meeting. This project will be owned 100% by the White Rock Cooperative, and all of the financial and environmental benefits will be going directly to the White Rock residents. There are 25 households who are participating in the project, and I think that's probably all the background that you need to know. I won't keep you. Bobby is going to answer any of your technical questions that you might have.
Yeah, so we're looking at a 90 kW DC array situated on a nice little plot of land.
I apologize. I didn't get your name again. Was it for the record? It was Bob. What was? Can you have your name?
Bobby O'Brien.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. Yeah, so we're just looking at a ground-mounted solar array on the unused plot of grass right on the kind of entryway to White Rock Circle. This will be providing about 112,000 kilowatt hours a year, and hoping to save the community a little bit of money off their monthly bills. We will be looking to get going with construction towards the end of May. And so this is a really great opportunity for Revision to help, continue to provide some benefits in the economy. We're, maintaining all of our install staff in the field, and, hope to get the array up and running for the community as soon as possible. Any questions I can answer?
Christine Dembitsky. Is it just going to be solar panels, or is there lighting there and a road or anything?
It's going to be just solar panels, no signage or lighting proposed, no changes in the features, no additional roads being put in.
This is Jane Alden. Will cabling be underground?
Yes, there will be no overhead wires. There'll be conduits put in between each row of panels, and everything will be done underground, no overhead wires, and there will be a wire meshing on the back side of the array to protect all of the wiring that goes from panel to panel.
And what do you intend to, Jane Alden again, what do you intend to do in the front so that it will be hidden from passersby?
You mean along the main road there?
Yes.
So right now we're not proposing anything. There is a line of trees that run along the road, and the road is a good 10 feet higher than the field. So there isn't really a good way to block the array from visibility. You'll see it as you come around the corner, and then the trees will help to break up the visibility.
How high is the array?
The array is about, let me just check my spec right here, is about 13 feet tall.
Judy Tilton, Planning Board. Will any chemicals be used on this site?
No chemicals. Everything is pre-manufactured. The panels are all pre-manufactured, pre-stamped steel. There will be no leaching of any of the either steel or the glass panels, so no environmental hazards in any way.
Other questions?
Who pays for damage?
Excuse me?
Judy Tilton, who pays for damages if these things get damaged? Who takes care of that?
It'll be fully owned by the White Rock community, and we have a operations and maintenance contract with them on, malfunctions. But as far as damage from outside events, that would be the responsibility of the community with our help and insurance.
Yeah, I was going to say the panels will be insured.
Who pays the insurance?
This is Chuck. I got a question, and I want to know whether or not, once the panels are installed, what is going to be used to control any vegetative growth on the property?
Chuck, point of order, could you wait till I open it to the public?
That's right.
I apologize. I apologize profusely.
Okay. No problem. Planning board have any other questions? Who's going to benefit from this other than the resident? Anyone else?
So I can answer that one, Bobby.
Thank you.
Because the solar array will be owned 100% by the residents are the primary beneficiaries. The only other benefits outside of the residents would be any contractors that are being used for the ongoing administration and operation of the solar array. That's a very small part of the project itself. So primarily it is the residents, but some of those administrative things would be, for example, insurance. If there's any accounting fees associated with it, the town's, sorry, not the town, the community's accountants, that sort of thing.
So you wouldn't in any way lease out the unused electric generator?
So this solar array is sized so that it is no larger than the community's electricity use. So it would be very unlikely that there will be excess electricity generation So no, at this point in time, given the size of the community and the size of the array, the beneficiaries will be White Rock.
Any further questions from the planning
Christine
board?
White Rock,
From the planning board?
Yep, Christine Dembitsky.
Yes, Christine.
I have two questions. One is to add on to Judy's regarding broken panels. So I'm assuming as part of the operations and maintenance, somebody's going to go out there and periodically check this, so it's just not going to go, look like shambles. And
Yeah,
two,
cool.
okay. Yeah.
No, sorry, continue.
Two, with the limited tree barrier, does this going to cause any glare to drivers that are going to be driving by?
Okay, in terms of operations and maintenance, we'll be doing yearly inspections on site. And so we have a contract with the community to keep the array working at tip-top shape, both functionally and visibly. If there were ever any damage to a panel, that's an easy replace for us, so we go out and swap that. So we're motivated as well as the community to keep everything in working order. And your second question was?
Glare.
Glare, yes. So the panels have a anti-glare layer on the glass, and basically the point of that is any glare is lost solar power. So the panels want to take in as much of that as possible, and so there really isn't any actual light being bounced off as you drive by ground mounted arrays. You don't get a glare into your eyes. They are intended to suck all of that solar energy into the panel, so it should not be an issue.
what about, is there need for snow removal?
No need for snow removal. The bottom edge of the panel is 3 feet off of the ground. So as snow falls, it'll collect over a snowstorm and shed off, as soon as the sun comes out. And we basically just let it sit for the winter. No need to remove snow from the panels or remove snow from the field. It just melts out as the snowpack, starts to recede.
Any further questions from the planning board?
Eric Pyra has a question.
Yes, Eric.
Are the panels angled in any way? Like, are they facing away from the road? Are they facing the road?
So they're facing south, which is the White Rock Circle, and they're angled 35 degrees for optimum production. But they won't be facing the main road. They'll be facing White Rock Circle.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the planning board? Then I'm going to open it up to the public. Are there any questions from the public? Once again, any questions from the public? Chuck? Chuck?
I'm here, Jane. I had my microphone off as instructed,
Okay.
even though I didn't follow your directions earlier, I guess. Every place there are solar panels, there's always an issue of vegetative growth growing, trees, shrubs, grasses, whatever. And even though these 3 feet above the ground, eventually, if this is untreated, it could block the sun. So I'm wondering what kind of vegetative growth control is going to be used, whether or not there would be any chemicals used, whether or not would be any potential runoff. There's a very delicate aquifer just slightly below ground level in that whole area. And there are a number of wells. And so I'm just interested in that aspect of it. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a great question. The field currently has a really nice layer of grass, and so our goal is to not disturb that as much as possible. Other than our trench that is, about a foot wide, we will not be disturbing the grass, and we want to promote its growth. So the field will continue to be mowed as usual by the White Rock community, and maintained to, really meet the aesthetics of the area. So we don't use any chemicals. We don't want to kill the grass. We want to actually maintain the health of the grass. Obviously that helps with stormwater retainage, and there won't be any chemical use to limit the grass growth.
Chuck, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Any further questions from the public?
Jane, John Scanlon.
Hi, John.
Hi. Yeah, I had a question. What is the plan for retiring these panels, and who would be responsible for that?
So the lifetime we hope for is, at least 40 years. And then at the time when it was deemed that the array is, no longer usable, the White Rock community would be the owner and would have to, arrange for dismantling or improving and rebuilding a future array.
Is there a plan in place for that?
No written plan, no plan in place as of right now.
Okay. The other question I had is referring to the master plan. This area is a corridor to, where people come up to vacation, have nice scenic views and that. And the master plan, it does talk about putting vegetative buffers in. I think along that road, it would be nice to have a vegetated buffer or to apply some type of trees that would not obstruct your light, but not make it appear like a solar corridor through there. Could that be done?
So there is a good deal of trees along the main road, and in springtime, once those come into bloom, it does create actually a really good buffer, and there wouldn't actually be any room to plant any additional trees in there. And then along the south side, we do not currently have a plan to plant anything, as it would, increase the maintenance requirements on the community.
So the deciduous trees?
Yes.
Yeah, I just don't recall seeing a lot you can pretty much see in there when you drive by there.
The issue is that the road is a good bit higher than the field. The road is raised up about 8 feet. So you'd have to plant a pretty substantial tree to actually break that visual up and be able to plant it on, the property in the area that you could plant on. You would need a 15, 20-foot tall tree, I believe.
So,
how tall are the trees that are there now?
I don't have an exact figure, but they range. They're, kind of naturally grown. I would say 10 to 15 feet at least.
I guess I'm a little confused on that because you said that where the solar panels is recessed by 8 feet, but the road is higher. So if you planted along the road, wouldn't you need a shorter tree?
Well, you wouldn't be able to plant directly alongside the road. It's already pretty much filled in with shrubs and brushes, and is right along a used sidewalk there.
Okay. The other question, are there any chemicals used for cleaning the glass?
No, we don't do any glass cleaning or glass maintenance. We consider the array maintenance free. So we don't go out and clean anything. A layer of pollen will build up during seasons, and that's just simply removed by rain and precipitation.
Do you have similar arrays at another location, Jane Alden?
What was the question?
You have similar arrays at another location?
Yes, we've built a couple dozen of these across New Hampshire, both residential sized, a bit smaller, as well as commercial sized for a number of our customers.
And where are some of these located?
I personally built one in Milton, New Hampshire last year, as well as Swansea, New Hampshire. I built one in Peterborough. There's a large ground mount.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say the one that Revision and Vermont Law School Energy Clinic collaborated on recently was the Mascoma Meadows community solar project in Lebanon, New Hampshire, which was another low-income community solar project that the New Hampshire Public Utilities Commission, together with pro bono services, helped to fund.
Any more public questions? Madam Chair, I have a question, Pat Constantino. Yes, Pat. Does this company plan on coming to the Board of Selectmen to seek a pilot?
I can answer that, Bobby. I think last year, before I started working on this project, my colleague Krista Shute, on behalf of White Rock and another proposed project at the Gaslight Rock, which is not going ahead now, did in fact seek a pilot, and we're not successful in that, and they are no longer seeking a pilot.
I have one other thank you. I have one other question, if you may, Pat Constantino.
Yeah.
I'm concerned after what John Scanlon had asked before, Selectman Scanlon. I'm concerned about 20 years from now, the maintenance and decommissioning, unless you have a fund for that. Is there a fund available to decommission?
We don't put a fund in place. Basically, the value of all of the materials in scrap value would exceed the removal cost. So basically, it would be arranged, to be dismantled and then paid for with the scrap value of the steel and the copper and the reused in the solar panels as well.
And you're saying the life is 40 years, is that correct?
Yes, that is the goal. That's what we shoot for.
That's what you shoot for, but traditionally, what's the current lifespan? Because everything I've looked up online says 25 years.
That's correct. Same here.
So 25 years is the warranted timeline, but there's no reason to believe that it won't continue to work for quite a bit longer. Basically, after that point, they're no longer warranted, but they're going to continue to be functional. And there's basically a rate of degradation as the years go by. They produce incrementally a little bit less. So it's a constant weighing of, is the production that you're continuing to get worth keeping it on site, or do you look at expanding, renovating, or dismantling?
Any more questions from the public? I have one more.
Yeah.
Just to clarify my question before, so when it's decommissioned, is it the responsibility of the cooperative to decommission it and sell off the scrap if they no longer want to upgrade or update it?
Yes, as the owners, that would be their responsibility.
And how long is your contract with White Rock?
So we have a 5-year workmanship warranty with them, and then the operations and maintenance contract is renewed periodically.
What do you mean by periodically?
I don't have the figure in front of me of how long that typically is, but we usually look at multi-year contracts. 5 years, I would say.
So if it could possibly, if they don't renew your contract, you could be done with them in 10 years.
If they chose to no longer maintain that relationship, but it's well within, it's not exceedingly expensive, and so most people continue to maintain that contract with us.
I just want to clarify, because sometimes there's confusion on this point. This project is 100% owned by the community. I just want to contrast to some other community solar models where there's a power purchase agreement arrangement. This is a community owned project, not a power purchase agreement project, just in case there's some confusion there.
This is just a curiosity question. The ones over in Milton, Swansea, Peterborough, how long have those been active?
Those are projects that I've built in the past year and a half, but we have projects going back at least 5 years, 10 years. We built a Tilton school maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So we have quite a long span of projects in the area.
This is Elizabeth Medina. May I ask a question?
Certainly.
So our house sits in direct view of the whole project. So when we look out our living room window, we are going to see all solar panels. And when you state on the similar lines as what John stated, the trees that are in front of the road, those are more like bushes. They aren't a very good tree line. And so everybody driving past it is going to be able to see, because it's quite open from my house all the way through to the opposite side. So have they discussed maybe putting some shrubbery of some sort down both sides of the road or the driveways so that we can get some type of covering, or is that not possible?
What would be the problem with that?
What would be my problem?
My recollection is that it's also pretty bare.
Yes. I find it to be very bare. It's wide open. As I look out my living room window right now, it's all like field area, open grass area. So everything would be in plain sight from the moment you see it till you pass it.
So there is no plan right now to plant any additional shrubbery. The cost of that would be pretty high and would certainly affect the economics of this project, and we would have to look at the feasibility of that. We wouldn't want to create an issue that the project becomes unattainable for the community.
That would only be my question to the town, is that I'm not sure, with the little bit of shrubbery that's on Route 3 and all the open field area, that this is not going to be very evident when you go to drive past it and looking out my living room window.
What do we do?
Any other comments from the public?
It's Jane.
Yes.
I would like to ask how long the agreement or contract is for purchasing the electricity that's generated from here.
You need to be far away from here. I hear feedback.
I can answer that. So this project is a group net metering project. So it will be participating in the state of New Hampshire's net metering program. So this isn't a merchant generator project. It is a net metering project.
You need to mute it.
Well, I guess that doesn't really answer my.
Oh, I can't hear if I mute it.
My question would be is, how long are they obligated to purchase the electricity from White Rock?
So under the net metering program, there is no end date for the utility providing net metering to this project. It's open-ended.
And is that a locked-in rate that, it wouldn't become cheaper for them to go somewhere else and kind of like just dump White Rock with all these panels and the town to have to look at them?
So White Rock actually fully owns the array, and they will own this for the lifetime of the system. And so they're the only off-takers, and they, immediately receive the benefits and the electricity from this project.
The utility doesn't have the option to just dump them. It's part of the net metering program.
Does that answer your question, John?
Yeah, sort of. The next one is, who would be responsible for replacing the inverters, and around what does that cost for a system like this to go in and replace the inverters?
So the inverter would be the responsible of the community. And again, that would be covered under both our warranty, operations maintenance contract, and then a 15-year warranty with the inverter.
Mm-hmm.
The inverter itself, I don't have the exact figure, but that's probably a value of $3,000 to $4,000, plus a half day of labor. So under $4,000 to replace that if needed. But again, that would a malfunction of an inverter in the first 15 years would be covered fully, and then over a long term, basically it would we would install a new one if it was failed.
I think that's it. Just I looked through the master plan, and they do specify that in that district that there should be buffers between this of trees and plantings. So
Is there going to be any type of fence around it to secure it for safety?
So we won't be installing a fence around the perimeter. We basically use a wire meshing, very strong wire meshing on the back side of all of the panels to protect all of the wiring. And then the inverter and the electrical equipment itself will be put around a very small fence that'll be in the interior of the array just to protect the actual equipment, the production equipment.
You said it would be cost prohibitive to do any planting. That may be true of trees, but what about arborvitae or some other shrubbery, fast-growing shrubbery? Would that be cost prohibitive?
We could certainly look into that. The question would be, where would that stop? Are we looking for that just along the main road, or into the community itself? I guess just along the main road would be the corridor.
Say my first concern is along the main road, because as one of the people who lives across the street has said, they don't want to just look into an array of solar panels. And also tourists coming by on Route 3. That would block it from them as well. And it wouldn't interfere, I wouldn't think, with the collection of solar energy.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a huge issue. We would just want to, the only difficult part would be basically as soon as the sidewalk ends, you're on a sloping downhill. So it might be difficult to actually plant in there without disturbing everything. But yes, we could certainly look into something. My colleague James Hasselbeck just wants to chime in on a couple things. He's our director of operations and just wants to make a few points.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, everybody at the planning board. My name is James Hasselbeck. As Bobby mentioned, my role is managing the design and construction of all our systems at Revision Energy. We've been doing this for about 15 years in New Hampshire and Maine. So first and foremost, thanks everybody for hopping on a virtual meeting. I think that's quite impressive, actually. So this is a great discussion. We are certainly open to providing plantings to screen the array if that is the desire of the town and the planning board. But I also wanted to provide just a tiny bit more context that Jeannie had touched on in the beginning of this specific project. So as Jeannie mentioned, VLS as well as Revision Energy, we're working very hard, essentially at cost, to provide solar energy to low-income beneficiaries throughout the state of New Hampshire. This has been a multi-year mission that Revision, Vermont Law School, the New Hampshire Public Utilities Commission, and our state Governor Sununu has been really focusing on over the past couple of years. So part of that effort is to make the installation as cost effective as possible so we can provide a meaningful benefit to the residents of White Rock so they can reduce their electricity bills. So while we're happy to add plantings or bushes or whatnot, whatever the planning board and the town requires, I also want to acknowledge that any additional plantings or really anything additioning at all essentially reduces the financial benefit to the residents of White Rock. So that's the kind of line that Revision and VLS are trying to walk. We're trying to provide the most meaningful value to local residents. while also meeting the goals and requirements of the master plan. So again, we are certainly open to that, but I did just want to highlight that context of this particular project to the planning board for their consideration.
How much power is stored in the array?
So the array doesn't use any battery systems. All the power is delivered to Eversource and enters into the grid, and then through net metering, it is distributed back out to the community. So no power being retained on site.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions from the public? All right, I'm going to close it to the public and return to the planning board. Any further questions from the planning board? Any comments from the planning board?
I'd really like to see, I'm sorry, Jane. I'd really like to see a written plan in place for the decommissioning.
Hi, Judy. This is James Hasselbeck once more. We certainly can provide a written decommissioning plan, and that's certainly something that we provided to other municipalities. That's not a problem at all. We'd be happy to provide. And again, as Bobby had mentioned before, the scrap value of the array will certainly exceed any decommissioning and remediation costs. The oldest system that Revision Energy and me personally have worked on is in Beverly High School in Beverly, Massachusetts, and that is roughly 42 years old. And we have replaced the inverters on that system, but everything else is original and still producing renewable energy.
So that plan would say in there that you are guaranteeing these residents that they're going to get their costs back in scrap.
I could not guarantee anything 40 years from now. I think that any guarantee about any topic 4 decades in advance is not a prudent thing to do, but we can show certainly very detailed economic analyses from systems of that age in other areas who have experienced that exact thing, where the scrap value exceeds the replacement value.
Does anyone else feel like I feel that we would like to see some plan for planting along Route 3?
I would, Selectman Pyra.
I'm talking, okay, Eric.
I
Yeah,
would
no,
do Frederick Center.
I agree with you, Gene. I driving by that, you know, even looking on just now, I looked on Google Maps to see what kind of picture they had there, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be much to, you know, shield the underside of that.
And it's like I said, that's my recollection, and I used to drive in and out of there on numerous occasions to pick up someone that I took grocery shopping, so I'm aware of it from that perspective. And that's a concern of mine, because I don't think we want to have more unattractive features along that route.
I guess my question to the planning board is, would that same requirement be applied if this was another structure as opposed to a solar array?
Of course it would be.
I think that would depend on the structure.
But I think that's in keeping with our master plan and in keeping with what we've asked for on other projects along Route 3. We are the gateway to the lakes, and it's important for us to protect that.
So I do think that it's a good project, and I think that trying to protect the view it makes a lot of sense. But on the other side of it, we have, they're not commercial buildings, but it was a restaurant and whatnot. I don't know. I feel like it's a renewable energy and it makes a lot of sense. So if they can block it some, I think that makes sense. But at the same time, I think they should be able to move forward.
We're not saying they can't move forward, but we
Right.
have heard from the abutters that that's a concern for them, and we need to take the abutters into consideration when we're making decisions for the town.
Jane,
Yes.
Eric Byra.
Yes.
Just thinking out loud, not much thought into this statement, but maybe we focus at building some type of arborvitae buffer or something on the, I guess it would be the eastern entrance to White Rock, where if I'm visualizing this correctly, you're going to have more people coming from Laconia heading to 93, where they're going to see the framework for these solar panels, with supporting these solar panels, and also to protect the view that the abutter has.
Any comments to Eric?
Arborvitae's at Lowe's are not terribly expensive.
No, they're not. That's why they're very fast growing. The only thing that White Rock would have to do is maybe go out and have somebody clip them on occasion.
And I would suggest don't plant them until fall when they go half price.
I appreciate your Yankee ingenuity.
Good.
Okay, I would like to just make a comment. I also travel that road frequently, and I think some kind of a buffer would be desirable. I understand the idea of trying to keep the cost and the comment about having somebody suggesting, well, would it be a different structure? There is not necessarily a different structure, and I don't know that I would want someone building solar panels in my front yard or my adjacent property without some cover.
Chuck.
Oh, fuck you.
Chuck, again, this is a planning board discussion. It's closed to the public right now.
I thought it was open to the public, Jane.
No, I closed the public comments. It's the planning board once again.
What? You're saying fuck you in the planning board.
Oh.
Do you know how to mute it?
I would suggest we take a moment while they learn how to mute their mic.
I would suggest the same thing. I don't know who that was either. I don't know.
A further outburst like that will not be tolerated.
No, it will not.
Jane, I do have the ability to mute all the mics, but it will mute everyone's mic at the same time. So if you need that done, just let me know. But then I'll have to.
Well, that was an outburst that was uncalled for, and I don't know where it came from. And no one's going to confess. I don't blame them. I wouldn't either. All right. Let's go on. Any more comments from the planning board? All right. So far, I've heard the suggestion of 2 conditions. One is a planning along Route 3. And the second is a maintenance plan. Is that correct, Judy?
Yes, please.
Jane?
Yes.
I would like to, I don't know if we can be that specific, but to maybe focus the plantings on the east side.
Okay, and that's...
Eric, are you saying instead of across the front?
No, well, I like the idea of going across the front, but there are bushes there already. But what's the number that should be there? I don't know. But at least if we can get, I don't know if you've ever been to Plymouth State College. Um, on the soccer field, along the soccer field, they have these like 40, 50 foot high arborvitaes, but I'm not saying to go that way, but there's just a solid wall, so you can't see through it. And I'm just thinking something like that, so that this abutter isn't looking at the guts of the solar array.
I'm trying to visualize that again. I'm not sure who would see the east side.
Traffic coming from Laconia as they head back towards the highway.
But I don't think my focus wouldn't be there because there's so much other along there. You have another group of mobile homes. You've got the stove shop. You've got. I'm trying to think of what. There's so much other there to take the eye. I don't think the eyes would be drawn to the solar panel. Just my own personal opinion.
The stove shop is not. The stove shop's not in play here because this is further down. The abutter that
I'm saying all along that eastern side, there's quite an array. There are other mobile homes. There's all along that roadway in that area.
But they're all set.
Eyes would focus on as opposed to the solar array. I'm more concerned about blocking it from Route 3, the tourists who are traveling right along it, and they would be going to the east, and also the homes directly across the street.
I think we also have to take into consideration that we do not expect these people to buy full-size trees.
No.
Because arborvitaes grow quickly. So if they buy a 3 or 4 foot tree at the end of the season and space them out, it'll take a couple years, but they grow fast and it'd be a lot less expensive.
And I was thinking that's why I suggested arborvitae because it is a lot less expensive, and I know that cost is one of the things that the residential area is focusing on. That's why they're wanting plus solar to defray the cost of their energy right now.
Mm-hmm. I think that this is James Hasselbeck from Revision Energy once more. I think that perspective is exactly correct. And again, Revision Energy is happy to include some plantings there. I do just want to make sure that we understand that every dollar put into plantings, whether it's arborvitaes at the end of the season or anything else, will come directly out of savings to local residents of the community. And I also just want to make sure that we are applying the same type of expectations to this renewable energy project, which is funded by the state of New Hampshire, as we are to other local businesses on Route 3. And, as someone who also drives that road, many times, I appreciate your perspectives, but I wonder where the requirement for arborvitaes for Rusty's towing and service and all those cars in 2 or 3 lots south would be. So I just want to make sure we're applying consistent logic across all of the properties on that area.
Many of us have been on the planning board a number of years, and anything new that has come before this planning board, those of us who are veterans on the planning board, have had the same requirement. It's not something we're picking on you. We've not had anything at Rusty's come before us.
Understood perfectly then. So we'll look for your guidance on specific areas or locations you'd like us to focus plantings on. And if I could just add one more point of clarification, I think the second thing you're looking for as far as conditions, it's not a maintenance plan. We have a solid maintenance plan in place already. I believe what the board is interested in seeing would be referred to as a decommissioning plan.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay, great. So we're happy to provide that. Yeah,
on my part. Okay.
It sounds like semantics, but they're very different things. And we'd be happy to provide a decommissioning plan that many other New Hampshire and Maine municipalities have approved, both on the planning and select board perspective.
That was a misnomer on my part. I apologize.
Nope, no problem at all.
Exactly
I just want to make sure. Yeah, I just want to make sure we're giving the board what they desire.
All right. If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion, including those two conditions.
Christine Dembitsky, I make a motion to approve. I don't have the plan number, the case number in front of me.
It's case number 20-01.
20-01 with the two conditions discussed.
Todd Odell, I'll second that.
All in favor, roll call vote. Alden, yes.
Dembitsky, yes.
Odell, yes.
Ira, yes.
Tilton, yes.
Frederick Senna, yes.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
making
you all
time
for your
us
time.
today.
We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next order of business is lot merger, completeness, lot merger, conditional use permit, and site plan for LAL property at East Main Street. It's case number 20-2, tax map U4, lot 38, 39, 50, and 51. Tax map R24, lot 12 and 13. It's a proposal to construct a two-story building for sales, service, and vehicle display parking, as well as customer service and employee parking. And did everybody get the latest update of the plan? Did people get our engineers' comments? Did everyone get a copy of the application, notes on the Conservation Commission, and the last notes on the zoning board meeting on the 21st? I'd like to hear from each member of the planning board as to whether you did or did not get and review those items I mentioned.
Was the application just on email or was it in the items we received in the mail?
I think it's what we received in the mail. Yes, it's what we received in the mail.
It was both. It should have been electronically and you should have received in the mail. The application actually came separate in an envelope.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have it in front of me.
It's also online and you received it through an email.
Exactly.
I received mine.
Alden received hers.
Tilton received hers.
Frederick Senna received his.
Here.
Ira received it.
I wasn't eating dinner. I don't know how my camera got turned off, but it did. I had so many papers here, I guess. All right, I'd like to go and have a roll call vote again of the planning board. Alden,
Dembitsky?
Tilton.
Odell.
Frederick Center.
Eric Kyra.
All right.
Lord.
And may I have a roll call vote of the applicant?
Hannah Giovannici with TF Moran.
John Cronin from Cronin, Biston and Zelinsky.
Tim Shasuli.
And members of the public?
Dennis Gaudette, AutoServe.
Roland Gamlin, AutoServe.
William Feinstein, applicant.
All right, if you had an opportunity to read the notes from the zoning board, you would know that there are two items brought before the zoning board that were tabled. The zoning board meets next May 5th.
No, Jane, the zoning board meets on the, hold on,
19th?
19th, thank
Okay,
you.
I'm sorry, the 19th.
Okay.
And I find it very difficult for us to move forward without rulings by the zoning board since two were tabled. I'd like to hear the planning board and your feelings about that.
I think they have a very well laid out plan, and I think that we could make a decision contingent on that meeting.
Other feelings?
Is that legal? We're going to say yes with a contingency, and then if they say no, the whole thing is blown? I'm just curious. I don't understand.
Madam Chair, this is John Cronin.
I think it's, let me say that I think it's unprecedented. I think ordinarily a planning board does not hear an applicant's case until after all pieces are in place. And this obviously our pieces are not in place.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, this is John Cronin speaking. Is there an opportunity at the right time where I could be heard on this issue?
Yes, John, there is, but right now I'm with the planning board, okay? Now I'll open it up to public comment.
Also, we just got the letter from TF Moran this morning, and I would like an opportunity for Keach Nordstrom to review that prior to us going through it.
I agree with you, Judy. This is Jane Alden. Any other comments from the planning board? I just want to say that I did not mean to convey the idea that it was not a well thought out plan. That was not the purpose of my comments. My comments was that we do not have all the pieces in place yet. It has not been reviewed by our engineer, and I think it's premature to move forward. Any other kind? I have other planning board members present. No one has anything to say except Judy and me and Todd.
I'm looking for the email that had the decision. Did Leanne send us what the zoning, the ZBA had decided? I'm looking for it and I don't remember what date.
I'm not sure Leanne sent it. It was online.
No, I sent the decision. I think I sent the decision along with my comments. Did you get my comments, Eric?
Looking here, I got one on April 23rd that says TCC comments. I have one that says meeting 428.
Yeah, that one.
Then
The meeting comments would be my comments for the meeting tonight, and then along with that was the attachment for the zoning notice of decision. I know there's been a lot of correspondence, so it's hard to keep track of all the emails when I can't hand it to you at the meeting.
That's how my microphone got turned off. I was flipping through so many papers.
Yeah.
What two variances did they table?
They tabled the use variance and a setback in the mixed use zone. So it's actually a use variance that they need because they changed the parking. They did at zoning. They decided to change the access to Morrison. So the applicant said they would do a redesign on that to preserve Morrison's access for the abutters, and they have submitted a new design. We got that today.
Yeah, no, I saw that and I appreciate that. I was at that meeting, but I had to jump off because my internet connection was horrible. So, but I heard that part where they were redoing the parking. So,
right. So typically you get all the zoning, especially particularly because it's a use variance, is why I think the recommendation to hold completeness, but it's up to the board.
I've only heard from 3 members of the board in terms of an opinion, one way or the other.
This is Dembitsky. Is this site plan in certain parts, like the lot merger is one part, site plan, building, or is it all contingent on the building?
So can I speak, Jane?
Yes, sure, Leanne.
So, yeah, the site plan would be contingent on getting the zoning, but if the board want to act on the lot merger, that's a separate item. They don't need a variance to do the lot merger, so you could act on that tonight.
Which I was going to suggest. But thank you, Leanne. My comments about waiting until we got the complete decisions from the zoning board is for the site plan portion of this, not the lot merger.
Well, I think they go hand in hand. They're not going to purchase the property.
They really don't,
They're not going to purchase the property if they're not able to.
Right. I mean, you can do the whole thing after you have completeness, but if they wanted the lot merger, that's not being held up.
Right.
That's fine. Right.
No other comments? Mr. Cronin, I'm going to open it to the public for a few minutes so that Mr. Cronin can speak. Mr. Cronin?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. My name is John Cronin, and I've been working with this project here with Hannah and Bill and Tim. The applicants who will actually be living here and running their dealership are on the line as well. And I hear the comment. I understand your concern, but I'm hopefully going to change your mind. This is unusual times. This started out, I think, back in January, February, and unfortunately we hit with a bad snowstorm and this didn't go forward. Scheduled for the following meeting and we find ourselves in another unprecedented time with the COVID crisis. So we're 90 to 120 days late behind schedule on this project. When we went before the zoning board last week, we had some great dialogue with the members of the zoning board, and we heard from a number of people on Morrison Avenue. If you look at the plan up now, if you can see it, it shows a parking lot initially destined for employee-only parking, 40 spaces out on Morrison Avenue, and they would go and pass out that driveway onto Morrison, out onto Route 3. There's 4 homes that are going to be removed here, and this proposal will have a net reduction both in total traffic and peak hour traffic. But based on the comments from the Morrison folks, they didn't want a connection to Morrison Avenue under any circumstances, and we they had to say. They were candid and they were open about their concerns. So we decided to table only the two pieces related to that parking lot. We did make a suggestion that we limit it to lease returns and loaners, which would further reduce the net traffic. But it was pretty clear to us at that time that the Morrison residents would be supportive if we could figure out a way to get rid of that access onto Morrison. And we did that and addressed the other variances in the hopes we could come here tonight, being so far behind, have you evaluate the plan, which we believe is comprehensive, very complete according to a standard plan subject to various conditions, including the condition that we get the two variances that we need from the ZBA. Now, the ZBA, although they didn't vote, they did give us constructive feedback that if we could figure out a way to do it engineering-wise and make it work, that they would be receptive to it. Likewise, we did get support from members of Morrison Avenue. But the crux of the question here is, what is a complete application? And granted, this is not normal, right? You go get a few variances and come to the planning board, but we're not in normal times, and I think everyone understands that. So I start with analysis from RSA 676:4. And I'm just going to read to you what it talks about the requirements for a complete application to invoke jurisdiction. It doesn't mean you're going to vote for this. All it means is you're going to hear it, listen to the abutters, and at the end of the day, you might say, we've heard enough to vote to conditionally approve this, or you might say, we haven't heard enough, and we want to move it over to the next meeting. So I'm starting at subsection B. The planning board shall specify by regulation what constitutes a completed application sufficient to invoke jurisdiction to obtain approval. A completed application means that sufficient information is included or submitted to allow the board to proceed with consideration and to make an informed decision. A completed application sufficient to invoke jurisdiction of the board shall be submitted to and accepted by the board only at a public meeting of the board with notice as provided in subparagraph D. An application shall not be considered incomplete solely because it is dependent on the submission of an application to or the issuance of permits or approvals from other state or federal governmental bodies. However, the planning board may condition approval on the receipt of such permits or approvals in accordance with subparagraph I. So we believe that we satisfy the intent, and Hannah's done a great job with the engineering. I've seen worked with a lot of plans and seen a lot over my 35 years, and this plan set is about as tidy as you see at this point in the process. But that doesn't end the inquiry, because as the planning board can define in their regulations what a complete application is. I pulled up your regulations, and they're 4 pages. And to get a complete application according to your rules, different than what's included in many other communities. In some communities, the rules specifically state you have to have all your zoning approvals in place. In Tilton, yours doesn't say that. All yours said is the site plan review shall be conducted in accordance with the procedural requirements contained in subdivision regulations section 4. No building permit shall be used for the site plan by the planning board is granted. The applicant will be notified by certified mail of approval or disapproval of the site plan. So then what do? You go over to section 4 of the site plan regulations. Again, there's no requirement that you have all your underlying zoning approvals. And if it did require it, I'd say it would be at odds with the intent of the legislature in the statute, which says, hey, as long as you have complete information to make an informed decision, it doesn't have to be absolutely every single detail. It just has to give you enough information. I then flipped to section 4 of your subdivision regulations, and I said there's no requirement to have the underlying variances granted. Now, I don't mean to be pushy here, and in ordinary circumstances, I'd say, okay, we'll come back again. But we're so far downstream And if you look at pushing this out another month and appeal periods, you don't get into construction mode here till late in the season, and then you're up against winter conditions. So I would ask you to think about your regulations and think about the statute and look at the documentation that's been submitted here. I think it's very complete, and it gives you enough information to make an informed decision. I'll also add that this change in the plan, which is now before you, it's not a change that comes at a small cost. We're looking at an estimated $500,000 in construction costs for retaining walls and to reconfigure for the benefit of Morrison and to remove that access. It's something that the applicants are willing to do. They're going to live here. They want this to be nice. They want to have a good relationship with their neighbors. They hope they all come over and buy a Honda or two. And they're this, but they can't be pushed out too much further or we run the risk of losing the deal. And getting a Honda deal in a community is a big deal. I know they initially looked at Laconia and the timing worked out and Mr. Gaudette was able to persuade them to come to this site. So I'm not asking you until you hear the evidence in the presentation to decide whether you vote. All I'm asking is that you look at your rules, consider the statute, and vote tonight to invoke jurisdiction so we can have a discussion. Anna can present the details of this case. The public can weigh in, as can the planning board members, and then we can get to whether it's sufficient for a conditional approval at the end. So thank you for hearing me out. I apologize for being a bit long-winded, but I can't stress enough the importance to my clients of having this heard tonight.
All right. Thank you, John. I will again ask for any input from the planning board. I'm merely the chair who facilitates discussion. I don't make the decisions, John, so. I've heard from 2 members of the planning board. May I hear from other members?
Can I speak again?
Yes.
I feel their pain. I feel that I don't believe that, and I'm only speaking for me, my thinking at this point, I don't believe we're going to come to a decision on this tonight, but is it unprecedented to hear a case and they still have a couple issues to iron out to get variances for? I don't know what our history is on that, but I do feel their pain, and I would be okay at least getting the ball rolling on this. He can kind of help them get back on track.
Other members?
When would our next meeting be in relation to the zoning board?
If they're meeting on the 19th, is that correct, Leanne?
Yeah, they're meeting on the 19th, so you would be the following Tuesday.
Which
you would
is
be
what?
The 19th, and you would be on the 26th of May.
So we're talking just a week's difference, and they can't go forward until the zoning makes their decision anyway, correct?
Correct.
So, I mean, I'm not against since everybody's here, having everything presented and answering all our questions, so that once we hear what the final decision on the zoning is, it'll be a lot quicker and easier for the applicant and not go through all this prep work at a later date.
Okay. Thank you, Christine.
So, yeah, this is my suggestion. If everybody's happy with the plan, as long as it, passes through the zoning board, as I said before, it's okay for us to informally approve this so that they don't have to worry about us down the road, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, I don't think that we can approve it until after to the zoning board rules. However, we could listen and hear the engineer. We still have to compare it with our engineer's recommendations, and we would have to come up with some conditions. It would probably move our next meeting along a little more quickly.
So my understanding is the only mixed use property is what is just going to be the retaining wall in the parking lot for the loaner vehicles. In my mind, like I said, the plan is very well laid out. They tried to do everything with the suggestions from the zoning board. Of course, they need to get approved by them. But my point is, if we all look at the plan and we say, okay, it meets our approval, as long as it meets the zoning board, it just gives them that sense that we're going to be okay with it.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
You may.
I have a question for Todd. Todd, don't you work for the applicants or the people that own the property?
What's that?
Don't you work for AutoServe?
Yes, I do, but I'm a planning board member. What was the question for?
He's not going to, Judy, he doesn't monetarily gain from the decision one way or the other.
That's not the litmus test that is used.
That's when I believe, and I will check, I will let Leanne correct me if I'm wrong, that unless he's married to one of the owners or unless he gains monetarily, he does not in any way have to recuse himself. Is that correct, Leanne?
No.
What?
There are a few conditions. It's normally the planning board member's decision to recuse himself. Somebody can question it. I'm going to pull it up. Hold on.
Okay.
What?
I don't have a problem recusing if that's what you would like me to do.
We've sat on cases before that have gone to court on appeals, and I would like to see this be a clean right down the line so we don't have to worry about that in the future.
I understand. To my knowledge, we're not voting on anything tonight anyways. I'm just trying to give them, some feeling like we're either moving forward or we're not moving forward. That's my only thought.
I've sat in on, I believe, every meeting. I sat in when you made the presentation to the selectmen, when you made the presentation to the zoning board, when you made the presentation to the Conservation Commission. I understand how much effort you put into this. So I'm not in any way, shape, form, or fashion trying to say that that has not been extraordinary.
And nobody is saying they would not like to see something valuable on that property. We just have to do it in the right sequence.
Fred, are you still on? How are your feelings? Fred?
Sorry. I agree. We can at least hear the what they have to offer, so that way the next meeting can go smoothly. We don't have to work. Don't have to go in that depth. So.
Well, then they could address any questions we have at the next meeting and make it
exactly
tighter.
Okay.
You just read my mind, Judy.
The bottom line, too, I think, is that this is not this is not the way things are ordinarily handled. We usually have approval from everything. The bottom line, however, is it's up to us as a board to decide whether we want to hear it or not. So That's why I asked.
Dembitsky, I'm for hearing it.
Pardon? I don't know who just spoke last. Was that you, Judy?
No, I think
It
it
was
was Christine.
Oh,
Yeah, I said I'm for hearing it tonight, so it lessens the problem at the next meeting.
okay.
I agree.
I can, if you're interested, I can read you the disqualification as it's written here in the.
Please do, since it did come up.
Yeah, I just have any member who has a direct personal or pecuniary, which is financial interest in the outcome of an application that differs from the interest of other citizens must disqualify himself or herself. The chairperson can then appoint an alternate. And then it does go on to say, although not expressly mentioned, an abutting landowner is disqualified from a hearing of an application. And then when there's a question as to whether a member should be disqualified, that member or any other member of the board may request the board to take a vote on the question. So that's how it's resolved.
Okay.
The question and the vote must be made prior to the public hearing. You haven't started your public hearing, and any such vote is advisory and non-binding and may not be requested by anyone other than a board member, except as provided by local ordinance or by a procedural rule. That's pretty much the long and short. I think that's all you probably need to hear, right?
Yes. You satisfied with that, Judy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Do you understand?
All right.
Okay. Direct, personal, or financial. So that's those are the kind of the or a direct abutter can be argued.
Okay. All right. So, planning board. Let's take a. Well, I'll entertain a motion to move forward and hear the presentation.
I make a motion that we hear planning board case. I got so many papers here. I'm going to need a hand here, people.
It's 2002.
Thank you. 20-02.
Ira second.
All in favor? Roll call
Aye.
vote.
Oh,
Dembitsky, yes.
Tilton, yes.
Frederick Senna, yes.
Ira, yes.
Todd.
Yes.
Alden, yes. Okay. So we need to look at the application. I make a motion to bring the application for to the table.
Second.
All in favor? Alden, yes.
Odell, yes.
Ira,
Tilton,
yes.
yes.
Dembitsky, yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Alden, yes. Okay. So we have the application in front of us. And this is I guess let's start first with the lot merger, okay?
So I guess I just have a question. So did you find that, so you're finding the application complete and you're moving forward and you're going to put the zoning aside? Is that right? Because I need.
No, we said we will hear the case tonight. But we're going to start with the lot merger.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Everybody have a copy of the lot merger application in front of you?
Can we just ask whoever's building an arc, please, to mute their microphone?
I just did.
Thank you.
I make a motion seeing that the lot merger for case 20, what do we want, 02, is substantially complete and we move forward to hear it.
I'll second that. All in favor, roll call vote. Alden, yes?
Adele, yes.
Tilton, yes.
Frederickson, yes.
Carter, yes.
Okay. The applicant can now make their presentation of the lot merger.
Madam Chair, just so I have some clarity on procedure, in terms of the acceptance of the application on the site plan,
Yes.
you did, so that was done.
No, we haven't done the application for the site plan. This is the application for the lot merger. We're taking that first.
I think they really need to be heard all together if we could do that. I mean, I think I can touch on the lot merger, but I don't know that it will make good sense to you unless you hear it all together. So if there's a way that we could present it globally, and then I'll handle any questions I have on specific. I think we could
Any
do.
more? Is there an objection to that?
I think the lot merger is pretty cut and dried.
I thought it was pretty cut and dry too. That's why I suggested doing it that way.
Should we make a motion to approve the lot merger contingent on their site plan so that because they said this was contingent on their site plan?
That would be fine if you wanted to do that.
Because then that would be up to type. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't own the property yet either, so obviously it'll be contingent as well on them getting clear title to all those properties,
Okay.
as well as the right of way. So,
But this is a piece of property that needs a clear title, correct?
right, well, they're separate property, right, there's some separate properties there, they don't have ownership of it yet, so.
Correct.
Madam Chair, I'm ready to proceed any way you want. If you want me to address the lot merger, I'm happy to do so.
If no one on the planning board has a problem, then let's look at the application for the site plan. Is everybody agreeable to that?
Yeah, because I
Let's
think
move
we
forward
can't
to the
vote
site
on the
plan.
lot merger with them not owning it.
Leanne, any comments?
I mean, you can make the lot merger condition on getting clear title, I believe.
Clear title. Yeah. Christine, I think if you read the notes, this goes back to an agreement that was made several years ago with the town.
Are you referring to the right of way?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can address that.
Yeah,
Okay.
we found some, okay.
All right. I have a piece of paper on that somewhere.
I believe Mr. Cronin is familiar with it as well because I sent him some documentation on that, on a vote that was taken by the town. So I think he has some information on that.
Yeah,
Do you, John? Do you have that information?
I do, Madam Chair. I have that information, and I've done some additional research on the status of the leg, I'll call it, of Morrison Avenue.
Okay. You satisfied with that, Christine?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Does everybody have a copy of the application in front of them?
Yes.
Okay. Then let's take a few minutes to review it. I make a motion to bring it to the floor.
Second.
All in favor? Roll call vote. Alden, yes.
Tilton, yes.
Stembitsky, yes.
Pyra? Did you say yes, Pyra?
I did.
Tom?
Ira, yes.
Odell, yes.
Fred? Fred? Okay, I don't know what happened to Fred, but we'll go on.
We asked him
Okay,
to mute his mic when he was hammering, and maybe he forgot to unmute it.
unmute it.
Come back, Fred.
Fred? All right, let's look then. Let's take a look at the application. Hopefully we didn't lose him for the night.
It just said that Todd Odell left too.
I saw that.
But I also see something that says TO.
Sorry, it logged me out for some reason.
You back?
I'm back.
Okay.
I'm not sure what I missed though.
A lot of quiet. Where this is pretty cut and dried, does anyone feel they need a presentation, or do they understand from the map what is going on?
I understand what's going on.
I
I
understand.
understand what's going on.
So the map that's currently shown is not the correct map because the plan has changed.
Well, we did get the revision today, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, we
Yes.
got the.
There it
Did
is.
you get it? I got it.
The merger of the lots remain the same despite the change in configuration of the parking area. So with respect to the lot merger, see the references to the lots on the bottom right of the plan, and that's the 4 lots over on Morrison, the 4 homes that will be going away and consolidated in large part to support the Honda dealership.
Any questions?
If everybody's comfortable, I'd make a motion to approve the lot merger for case 2002.
Is there a second?
Is it going to be contingent upon purchase of the property?
The title, clear title. That's the condition. Is that the proper
Thank you.
wording, Leanne?
Yeah, that's,
A clear title.
I put it in your comments with the condition, but if you don't have it,
Yeah, I have it somewhere. I don't.
yeah, clear, yeah, it's fine. Clear title
Clear title.
is fine, I guess. That
Does everybody understand what that means?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Applicant understands what that means?
I do, but I don't think you have jurisdiction with respect to title other than the section with the road. I'm not opposed to it because I'm certain that our clients will insist on clear title for their purchase.
Yeah.
But typically, a planning board would be concerned about the status of the tail of Morrison was discontinued and would have a reserved prescriptive easement for the benefit of those 4 homes if they remained. Since those 4 homes will be going away, that title issue evaporates by the merger. So that all goes away. There'll be no houses left that will require that tail to service and get out to an. So with respect to title, I think from a planning perspective, you want to make sure that Morrison is resolved. I'm happy to provide you with an opinion if that's something that your council wants. But with respect to the master site, generally title and clear title and fee title on commercial usually has an easement with respect to power lines. It might have an easement or right of way to DOT for the light. So using clear title or good title is somewhat of a term of art, and I don't want to get
Well,
bogged
it's
down.
my understanding that our concern, we should have a concern because of action taken by selectmen several years ago. But I may stand corrected.
I understand that, and I can provide some clarification to that. What happened with the selectmen, they discontinued that portion, which was never laid out by meets and bounds, but it did get public status by being shown on approved plat, which is in circulation. So that tail was the primary access for those two of the 4 houses did not have frontage on Route 3.
Okay.
Now that those homes are going away, the road is discontinued, and any of the prescriptive rights that would remain after discontinued abolished.
Okay.
This is Dembitsky. I just want to add a point where the reason I'm looking for the verbiage clear title is because they don't own it yet, and having it titled to them and having that in the vote, it would be important.
Well, that's why I said successful purchase.
Yep.
Thank you, Eric.
So, Leanne, you do have the correct verbiage now, right? For notes?
I'm sorry, I'm muted. Yeah.
Okay. And that was my concern. So.
Jane, was there a second?
I seconded it. All right, roll call vote, Alden, yes.
Odell, yes.
Pyra, yes.
Dembitsky, yes.
Tilton, yes.
Fred? Yes, Fred has left us. Okay. All right, applicant.
Yes, Madam Chair.
we've approved the lot merger. We have to now look at the site plan.
I'll summarize the site plan for you, and then I'll turn it to Hannah to cover some of the engineering details. So this site, as many of you have known, has been a vacant site for a number of years. It was the subject of a prior development effort by Lascotti Development, which I believe came for you. They were going to configure it in kind of a commercial strip with 3 or 4 pads out front. I believe the tenants that were being discussed at that time were a gasoline station, a tire retail store, a restaurant, and perhaps another user. That went pretty far downstream with respect to local approvals and got hung up a little bit with respect to DOT approvals at the light for the access. Mr. Lascotti has then moved on and passed, and it just so happened that Tim and Bill, who are on the line with us, were rewarded with the point, as we call it, by Honda Motors. Tim has been a Honda dealer probably since he was 14 or 15. He'll correct me on that. He's worked for a Honda dealership with his family.
17.
And Bill and he currently run one of the most successful Honda operations down in New Jersey. They're regularly recognized for their excellence, both in sales and service. Tim has relocated to New Hampshire and was interested in this site. It was competed for very heavily with dozens of dealers vying to get this spot. Bill and Tim were awarded with the rights to develop here at this location by Honda Motor. They're very proud and happy with that. And after looking at Laconia and coming close to situating there, the timing was right for this particular site. What we have after the lot merger and consolidation is approximately 10 acres of land, on which the 31,000 square foot modern building to be constructed to Honda's current design specifications will include offices, sales area, parts, and a state-of-the-art customer service facility. There's 240 parking spaces that will be for the display of vehicles, and there's 160, perhaps a few more with reconfiguration that will be for customers and employees. The site did require some variances, which is not unusual for a project of this size. We went before the ZBA and we sought some setback variances, which were around the perimeter. They were nominal in nature. We had some retaining walls over to the east that were within the setback. That area, as many of you know, is buffered over on that side by the post office and the car wash, and then slopes down to the river. During the ZBA discussion, talk about the wildlife corridors, and there'll be no discussion of those down there. There is a steep grade, and that buffering that you see on the plan will remain, so we don't expect that there'll be any disruption concern whatsoever with respect to the wildlife. Other variances that we sought and obtained include a variance to reduce the number of light poles and to raise the height just a bit. And we did get some variances for signage. The signage in particular, I just wanted to be noted that this site does 177.16 feet of frontage on Route 3, and if the prior plan proposed by Lascotti went forward, you would probably have no less than 3 or 4 signs. So still we have a net reduction with respect to what we sought. As I talked about earlier, initial comments, the parking initially figured the employee lot, then went to loaners, was going to have access off Morrison. Due to the response and input from the neighbors there, Hannah and her team went back to the drawing board and redesigned that, as you see up in the plan. There'll be a retaining wall that starts along the back, and it traverses the property heading up to Route 3. There's a marginal encroachment into the setback that we talked to the ZBA about, and if we could satisfy the connection to Morrison, they didn't appear to have any reservations with respect to that. While we're looking at that section, Hannah, if you could slide your cursor over, you can see the dashed line. That's the zone line. And that parking lot sits within the mixed-use zone. And although there will be no selling or servicing of automobiles in that location, the lots are merged. We probably could make the argument without the variance that it's accessory to the principal structure. But with the exercise of caution and completeness, we are seeking a variance for that particular map U for lot 60 to allow the automotive use. The other variance that will be sought there again is for the minor encroachment. This is a branded dealership. Part of these dealerships, any manufactured brand, whether it be Ford, Chrysler, Mercedes, Honda, they value their brand, and they require dealers to build their buildings to very specific standards. Hannah, I believe, has some displays that we could show you a bit later that you'll get a sense of what the elevation looks like from the street. And this will be new and in line with maybe some of the newer Honda facilities that you may have seen in your travels. Hannah and the TFM team have taken great care in the lighting plan. These are all LED lights. They are going to be cut off so that there's no spillover at the property lines. And in addition to that, for buffering, Tim and Bill have agreed to do what I would call a very comprehensive landscaping plan. As you'll see over on the side of Morrison, you have dozens of trees that are placed to provide a very attractive screen there. There's a number of plantings that are at the corner to shield that existing house as close to her property line as possible to get the maximum buffering. With respect to other variances, we did get a variance with dimming of the lights for security reasons. So all but one of the lights on each of the poles will be shut off at 11, and there'll be a small number of lights that will remain on in a dim state for security through the evening. This particular use is a reduction in traffic from the prior Lascotti plan. Hannah will talk about that in a little bit more detail. The nice thing about it, we're at a controlled intersection and a light, so you don't have any free flow of traffic. Everything will be regulated through the signal. You see on the plans you have 3 turn lanes out, making it easy to move in all directions going across to the Coles development or heading north or south back down to Tilton Center. Throughout the site there is active landscaping, more than that's required by the regulations. Hannah and her team looked at drainage and are comfortable that they satisfy all the regulations with respect to drainage. I'll turn it over to Hannah for a moment. She can get in some of the engineering detail, and both of us will entertain any questions that you may have.
I'm Hannah Giovannucci, professional engineer with TF Moran, and I'll walk you through a little bit more of the design. The big thing we have is a 2-story auto dealership with lower level access around the back too. We have retaining walls to separate the different grades. We have a main level grade in this vicinity here and also on this side too. And you'll note that our revised parking lot design will be at the same level as the remainder of the front of the site. The rear around here is going to be lower level access, and that will allow for truck movements to come in and out and around this way. We coordinated access with New Hampshire DOT. This is a signalized intersection near the Coles-Lowes light. And this we have coordinated with New Hampshire DOT and analyzed the traffic generation to make sure that there's no perceptible differences between a build and no build condition. We're also retiming the traffic signals to mitigate the increase of traffic that's here. But compared to previous analysis that was done about 20 years ago when they were looking to build out this area, it's significantly less, considering this is one use compared to a number of different retail or restaurant uses that would usually be poking through at different curb cuts along this intersection. In terms of the rest of our design, we looked into the grading, utilities, landscaping, lighting, and stormwater. And all of our development on this site has been designed to protect the wetlands and maintain our wildlife corridor and woodland area. You can't really see exactly where the line is on this plan, but you can see where there's existing woods along the rear of this site. There we go. This portion in here is what's going to be developed. The remainder of the site, which happens to be about 5 acres, will be maintained as is. We're not going to do anything to do it. There'll be no disturbance, and this can proceed as usual. Our wetland area we have over here, it's this lighter green area here. We will not be doing any disturbance to this wetland nor the buffer. Also, during construction, we'll be proposing erosion controls to protect this area. And we will also have a long-term stormwater maintenance system, which will help protect erosion long-term and water quality, especially for this wetland area, and especially as it discharges towards the Winnipesaukee River. There is an outlet in this vicinity here, which is a 24-inch culvert, which leads out underneath the railroad and heads towards the river. Now, in the precondition of our stormwater analysis, this is the main point where everything goes, but we broke this out into different subcatchment areas, all of them which do go to here. When we looked at all those subcatchment areas, we have, let me switch to a different plan that will show our erosion stormwater a little bit better. But we did make sure that everything in this development, all paved surfaces as well as stormwater surfaces, all are treated, captured, infiltrated into our groundwater systems. All right, so throughout our site, we'll have another infiltration system here. When this gets raised, this will be a separate structure over here. This is our first one. We have a second one that's under this from the pavement, one out back here, and one over here towards the side. We coordinated with Conservation Commission and listened to their concerns and can ensure that we've addressed their concerns to make sure that we are maintaining erosion controls and the water quality. We also have snow storage locations throughout this site. One area of concern that Conservation was worried about was this area back here. Our plan does create somewhat of a 3-foot berm that will help protect all stormwater to continue back onto the site rather than being pushed over the embankment. There's also an existing woodland area that will help protect that area too, and we hope that satisfies the board. All stormwater that is captured will be going through a deep sump catch basin system. So the deep sump will trap sediments, and the hooded part of the catch basin will protect from oils or floatables from entering into the systems. Additionally, we do have a fuel tank area over in this vicinity over here. We'll be working with the EPA as well as New Hampshire DES to make sure this secondary spill containment, this is designed appropriately and has double walls so that it does not pollute this area over here. But in addition to that, we are going to propose sediment oil separators that collect anything from this trash area as well as this fuel tank area before it goes into this infiltration system. All discharge from the site will have reduced runoff rates compared to existing conditions. We worked with New Hampshire DES during our alteration of terrain permit to ensure that we're meeting their regulations, which is supposed to be designed up to the 50-year storm. And we also have met Conservation Commission's request to look at the 100-year storm and reduce runoff rates for that as well. Overall, this project mitigates the traffic impact and stormwater runoff, provides a clean use and low impact use for this vacant property compared to other uses that may potentially be developed here or have been considered before. And we're improving the aesthetic of the property with a number of landscaping and providing the community with over $150,000 of tax revenue from this approximately $8 million project. And with that, I'd like to answer any questions that you have regarding this project.
Any questions from the planning board? I have a few. You said, I know that in one time, I believe it was at the Conservation Commission, you said you would not be removing any trees. Is that true? Are you removing some or minimal?
Minimal trees. We're not removing any trees in the wildlife area down here.
Okay. Oil water separators on the lots itself. It was my understanding you were only having oil water separators in the inside of the garage. Do you have any plan? Do you have any plan for the parking lots?
We're adding an oil water separator for this fuel area. The intent of having the oil water separators is to catch sediment and oil, and deep sump catch basins do that, and that's a standard best management practice for doing that type of activity.
Okay. You said that Conservation Commission asked you to look at 100-year stormwater management, and you've looked at it. Did you plan for it?
Yes, we planned for ensure that it's designed for a reduced runoff rate compared to the 100-year storm. We also looked at the volume. The volume is something that I just sent to everybody. There's a table related to that. That's not something that's typically designed for as well. The concern is erosion when you're looking at that 100-year storm. So because we've designed the system to release less water compared to existing conditions for the 100-year storm, that tends to normally satisfy the concern of erosion. If you're looking at volume, in certain instances at different locations, it may be a little bit more, around a 10% increase, sometimes a little bit more, and often sometimes less as well.
Okay. Planning board, comments, questions?
I think we're concerned more about the 100-year storm in general because we had a breach right across the street at the other property and flooded those homes already. So we have to do our due diligence to make sure that those homes stay safe.
And we've also had 2 100-year storms within the last 10 years that I know of.
I can assure you that designing for these 100-year storms in terms of reducing runoff rate does protect during the 100-year storm. And also, just in terms of how hydrology is calculated, this is a stormwater model that isn't a typical what you would see. The way the stormwater is analyzed in our analysis program is all of the water hitting things almost at once. It's kind of everything just coming in like a 4-hour period spread. And so normally, sorry?
Deluge. A deluge of water.
Yeah. So the way it normally happens is it's spread out through the day and it's on and off. So when we're analyzing this and we're also using reduced infiltration rates, we actually measure out in the field and compare it to how we design it. We're taking half of the infiltration rate. So we're pretending that the infiltration is significantly lower than what it actually is. So they're just numbers that we're looking at, but when you actually look at the real conditions when this gets installed, there isn't much that's going to be leaving these infiltration systems. Even for the 100-year storm, most of it is going to be infiltrated within the groundwater rather than going out.
The other benefit here is those 4 homes probably were lower lying, the back on the ridge. They will no longer be there and not subject to any flooding.
And additionally, the existing topography, a lot of this site drains towards the left. With our development, we're actually taking all of this area and containing it within the site. So there won't be watershed over towards Morrison Ave.
While we're on drainage, can I ask an odd question? I have 2 drainage analysis reports here. Both says Laconia Auto Dealership. One is from March 16th, one's from March 25th. One's job number 47159 and one's job number 95962. So which one should I be looking at?
Be looking at the one that's the most current, one that probably has the 47 number. Can you tell me what state that one is?
Beg your pardon?
Tell me what
the
state.
date. The 47159 is March 16th.
Okay, you want to look at the other one then. That was we had to update for the New Hampshire DES submittal, and so this planning board submission was submitted 4 months ago. So things have changed along the way in terms of stormwater design. But those are underground changes than they are surface level.
Awesome. That's an inch of paper I can throw away. Yay.
I'd like to take a minute while we're calling on this engineering. Hannah and I are doing our jobs and we'll move on, but Tim and Bill, this isn't a development situation where someone's going to build a building and move on, find some tenants. They're actually going to live and manage and run this for the long term. So Tim, if you're still with us, if you can just chime in for a minute, tell us a little about yourself, why Tilton, and what your vision is for this site.
That's not really part of the site plan?
Yeah.
I think it's important for context, though.
I'd rather stay on topic so we can complete the site plan.
For that, but I know Tim is important. It's a big investment, and I think I'd like to be heard for a few minutes. But we can continue on, and we'll pick that up before we close out.
Lord. On the plans themselves for the proposed auto dealership, page C-01, under general notes 4, it says all improvements shown on the site plan shall be constructed and maintained in accordance with the plan by the property owner and all future property owners. No change will be made to the site plan without the express approval of the Tilton Planning Director. And the Tilton Planning Director does not have that authority. That should be the Tilton Planning Board.
Okay.
This is Dembitsky.
Sorry, what was that?
This was Christine. I just had a comment. The Tilton Northfield Fire had requested that any revisions to the plan be submitted. Did they get that new one that we just got today?
Yes, I sent them an email today.
Okay.
That was Hubert.
Right. Leanne, does he have to respond to that, the change on that?
That's something that I think
Sorry, I'm
Tim
muted.
and I were getting throughout this entire process.
Yeah, I know that he got it today, and I'm sure he will respond within a couple days if he has any issues with it. I don't think it's anything that will affect him, but he certainly can respond in a couple days. He turns it right around. Did he acknowledge to you, Hannah, that he got it? I saw the email, so.
No, I didn't get acknowledgement.
Okay.
But it's just a minor change. It's just a different hydrant location, which is 20 feet from where the original location was.
This is Eric. I have a question.
Yes, Eric.
I'm getting a leg cramp at the same time. Sorry. The fuel tanks. What's the capacity of those fuel tanks that are going in?
I believe it's 3,000 gallons. It has secondary containment as well. This is something that we'll be coordinating with the EPA as well as New Hampshire DES. I think the name of the permit and approval for this is above ground tank. That's actually the name of the permit through New Hampshire DES, which will be.
So the tank is actually above ground, not below ground?
Correct.
Yeah.
They have us do spill prevention plans as well, mitigation for that in case of an event.
And is there any type of car wash and car detailing that's going to be occurring here? I don't see it.
If you look on the architectural plans, which are way at the end, we have a couple of wash bays in the lower level. So we mentioned oil water separator earlier, and so any water that's coming from there is going to go to the oil water separator and then go to the sewer.
What kind of
in this instance, because there's not enough water to allow it to go through the stormwater. The solution to pollution is dilution, so you don't want it going to the water. You want it to go towards sewer instead in this case.
What kind of maintenance plan do you have for the oil water separators?
We sent an operation and maintenance manual.
I saw that. Is that
the application? It wasn't a checklist requirement for the town.
okay?
Just a quick question, Hannah. Could you address the wildlife corridor?
Yeah. Understanding that along the river is a wildlife corridor. Portion of it is around this area right here, which is about half of the development site, and we're not touching anything beyond where you can see kind of this cut in from right here.
So like between there and the post office will be undisturbed?
Correct. Yep.
Awesome.
So
thank you.
Wetlands not touching anything within there either.
Which side of the tracks is the recreational trail?
I'm not sure about the recreational trail, but I believe it would probably be within the right of way for the railroad and not on our property. Either way, it would obviously be near the rail trail, and we're staying over 100 feet from that edge of that abutter.
Are there any other comments or questions from the planning board? If not, I'm going to open it to the public.
Excellent.
Can you hear me?
I can.
This is Mark Buzzier, and I'm here with my wife, Sally Buzzier. At the outset, I'd like to say that it's a little disconcerting, unless I've misunderstood the comments, that there were conversations with people, property owners from Morrison Avenue, which did not include us, and I believe our property would be the closest to this development. That said, I would like to also ask a couple of questions. There's two different drawings that we're looking at. I apologize, we've lost our audio feed with this this app. However, we can see the visual presentation.
Mm-hmm.
There are two plans that I'm looking at. Am I correct in understanding that there is now no alteration or access to or from Morrison Avenue?
Correct.
So it still remains a one-way street. There's no access to this new parking lot.
Correct.
And
Remember,
what
it's not a
assurances?
one-way street.
Pardon?
Morrison is not a one-way street.
It is coming in. I'm sorry, going out. Going out to Route
Yes,
3
correct. You're
on the
correct on
extension
that.
where our
Yes,
property is, it is a one-way street.
yes. Going
So we want
out.
to make sure it stays that way.
It is staying that way.
Very good. What assurances do we have that the elevation of the property where the aforementioned employee parking area will be located will not change to affect the water flow onto Morrison Avenue and to the resulting properties on the other side of the street?
As I explained earlier, oh, thank you for your comment, and I'm glad that you're here today. As I explained earlier, this entire portion of the site, if I'm looking on this left side right here, about half of this over here in existing conditions regularly drains onto Morrison Ave. So in developing this, everything that you see within this pavement area here, including this retaining wall, that all is going to be captured on site in our infiltration basins. And not much of it is going to be escaping until you get to more of the higher design storm years, which are the 2-year design storm, which means a storm that would happen and be about 3 inches and have the probability every 2%, 2% of the time. So this is actually going to improve the drainage that you see on Morrison rather than it's going to inhibit.
Okay. The foliage that you mentioned, I can see that there's on the architectural drawings, there are what looks like trees or something. Will those be designed or rather planned to obstruct view from, say, from our property over to the parking area? I know that it's not going to completely block out light from the light poles, et cetera, but I would like to be sure that the foliage on the trees will block the view as much as possible to the parking area itself.
Yes, we'll be ensuring that our landscaping does do that and buffer all residents along here.
Okay. I'd also like to, just to my first point, if there are any other conversations with property owners on Morrison Avenue, we certainly expect to be included in those conversations.
Just to clarify, there was no intent to leave you out. We had a zoning board meeting last week. I don't know if you attended that by Zoom. It's difficult to see who's on board, but a number of your neighbors attended, and Selectman Scanlon was involved in speaking about the neighborhood as well. So the folks that were on the call last week are the ones that interjected comments, and they were the ones that we had the discussions with. So I'm hopeful that you got the notice for that meeting. I know that's a rental property, and maybe it.
I don't think we did actually. This is the only one we got a notification for a change for. The other ones were canceled as far as we knew.
Yeah. So there was no intent to leave you out, and we're glad you're here tonight. And that's the purpose of these meetings, so that you can express your concerns and we can try and address them.
Okay, and I also caught a comment earlier that there were to be changes to Morrison Avenue. I presume that is no longer the case?
There never has been any changes to how Morrison Avenue functions. It was just a curb cut, and there is no longer a curb cut.
Okay.
I have heard a discussion about the town discontinued that, I'll call it the tail of Morrison that's visible now. That
right.
was discontinued as a public road years ago by the town.
But the rest of it stays as is.
Correct.
From our perspective, there'll be no change to that, and that's something that the selectmen have the power to do what they want with. At our ZBA meeting, there was some discussion about an improper posting at the head of Morrison there, and some debate as to whether two-way or one-way, but jurisdiction, that's up to the selectmen.
Okay, I do understand that. Just one last comment from me. I understand that Honda, as well as any other brand is proud of their brand. I do hope that the other lighting beyond the typical parking lot lighting will not be a bright star in the sky. And I'll just leave that as a comment.
This is Sally Buzzier. I just want to say, yes, it is rental property, but we are the owners of that property and the taxpayers. So we do appreciate getting notification when there's a discussion about our property.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the public?
I have one. This is Dave Fontaine. I live at 20 Morrison.
Hi, Dave.
I was in attendance at the last meeting and I was quite vocal. I'm glad to see that you guys made some changes and you're staying off Morrison Avenue. I did have one concern that Stephanie brought up also, and that is when you got new inventory that comes into the Honda dealer and you have more cars than you have spaces, which happens regularly right down the road, so I know it happened. Where are you going to park those cars? Because I know they get jammed in. So are you limited to how many cars go in there based on the spaces? In other words, it's 340 spaces. Can you never have more than 340 cars on your lot? How does that work?
Well, I'll let Tim address it, but in terms of Honda, it's not as easy to get Honda cars as it may be some other brands. So your observations about other types of cars being loaded may not apply to this site. It's my understanding, and Tim will correct me, that it's always difficult for Honda dealers to get the volume and type of inventory that they want because there's such high demand and limited supply. But Tim, if you can add to the comment of how your vehicles will be loaded and unloaded.
Yeah, hi, Dave. I think I met you on the site the day after the zoning board meeting.
Yeah.
Typically we run with a 45-day supply of cars. Really can't get more than that. And if we did, we would find an off-site storage lot because obviously there's not a lot of room on the site. It is 10 acres, but we're only using like 4 and change of the acres because it just doesn't suit us. But obviously, Dave, if we do have too many cars, which I don't think is going to be the case, certainly not in the first several years, then we'd have to find another place to store them.
So they would not be polluted. You wouldn't pollute the site with extra cars. You're going to stay within the spaces you're allowed by the board.
Absolutely, unless you want to offer your driveway to us, we'd greatly appreciate.
Yeah, it comes with my plate, no problem.
Okay.
All right, yeah, that was a big concern, and I know it was a concern of Stephanie's, who lives at the top. She lives at butts like Buzzier's do. And I would agree with Mark and Sally, who mentioned that they didn't get a lot of notice for this. I found it very difficult to get information, and until I started scrounging around, a lot of stuff didn't come my way, so I had to go out of my way to find this information. So I don't want to say a better attempt, but a good attempt to notify everybody on the street of what's going on is a good thing. If you're not using the street now, it's more abutters, but a lot of the people that live on the street can still see the parking lot. And when we have people come to look at our house, maybe to buy it, if they look up the road and see trees versus cars, I think that would make a difference. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
Sure. John Scanlon here.
I knew you'd say something, John. Hi.
Yeah, I can. Well, I have not had the opportunity to meet my neighbors up there on the corners, talk to them, but I can assure you that the neighborhood did voice their opinions, and Honda listened, and they made adjustments at great expense to them, and I thank them very much for that. It makes for a good neighbor, and I know as a car dealer and their brand that they want to keep everything looking nice and clean and neat and orderly. And so I've got good faith in this project, and I'm happy to see the changes that they made in the trees. And I hope Stephanie will have the opportunity to chime in on that and give her approval too. And you can park some cars in my driveway. Just leave the keys in the ignition. I'll take care of it from there. Thank you.
This is Stephanie's here. I just have to say, same thing on their aspect. I just want to know what trees are we putting here? I can see the new design has trees pretty much up close to my property line. Are they going to be you putting in full grown like tall trees, or are we talking we're going to be waiting for these trees to grow up for 10 years?
Hi, Stephanie. Good question. We were interested in putting evergreen trees. We were thinking like a white spruce over here, which will be a tree that can grow up to 60 feet. When installed, we're probably looking around 8 or 10 feet, potentially more. These trees do have a growth rate between 1 and 2 feet per year. And compared to arborvitaes, deer don't like them, so they won't be eaten, especially being so close to a wildlife corridor. So these 6 trees over here will be evergreen, along with these ones here, and we'll have a row up here as well. We may potentially include some up here, depending on what type of shade trees we'll be putting here. These are shade trees here and here as well. Do you have any other thoughts on the landscaping?
No, I think it looks nice. I appreciate the fact that you're not using Morrison Ave, but I looking forward to seeing the foliage when it's done.
Okay, any more comments from the public?
I have a follow-up to that. This is Dave Fontaine again. I know that pine trees have pine needles, and the pine tree across the street drives me crazy. And arborvitaes, they die. I understand that. If the job gets done and we look at it, and because you can't really tell till it's all done, and it's light or it doesn't really, fit the need of the neighborhood, can we petition Honda to do a little more? I know that's money that's got to be budgeted somewhere. And then if damage happens to these, winter kill and all that other stuff, is someone going to maintain that, or is it just going to, I've seen other car dealerships, the back of the lot's got the junky cars and the broken, the broken trees and the fence that's all crushed. That's pretty typical. I know that you guys got a different lot than that, but I am worried about, a year, 2, 5 down the road when, this turns into the back of the lot and it's really not maintained.
Good question. All of the landscaping that we're proposing, there really isn't any regulations with landscaping. So what we are proposing is in our interest to maintain and make the property look nice. And so there is operation and maintenance plans that also address landscaping to ensure that this area gets mowed and these plants survive.
And the light pollution is the big one, light and sound pollution. So if you plant the trees and the light still shine through the trees, what's the recourse? And I know pine trees have spaces, and are they offset and they in a row? Is there 2 rows, 3 rows? I did see the design, but it's hard to tell from a sky view. So when they're in and done, that's kind of like, is there, you guys, it's kind of light. Can we do some more? Is that a recourse Honda would be willing to talk to us about?
Yeah, first of all, we'll definitely be looking at the lighting to make sure it has minimal impact to the property line. Regulations require that there's no impact to this property line here. So that's the first thing. And second, the client is interested in being a good neighbor, as you may be aware, with all this redesigns. I'm sure they'll be willing to work with you if there is concern. There are 2 light poles that are here right now, existing conditions, so I don't see much of a need to put anything much closer.
I was more concerned with the fact that getting it on record that we did ask it, look, if it's inadequate, we're just going to come and, Stephanie's the first one, and the Buzzier's house is close, and I can see for miles when I go out in the street, and so can half the street's pretty straight, so a lot of people will be able to see that, and a lot of people drive up there. But another concern of mine is when people drive on the main road and they look and they see cars, they may access our road, even though it's not an entrance, because they can see in there. So the more blockage to me, the more no one's going to come on the street, and then the less impact to the values of the home will be. Those are my concerns.
Dave, this is John speaking. With respect to the landscaping, of course, we have to meet the regulations, and if we don't, you certainly can make a request to the building official to enforce it. Typically these things work themselves out before that. If there's a problem, whether it be light or something else, we'd expect you to bring it to Tim and Bill's attention and have a conversation about it. Different people have different sensitivities and desires, and over the years on some of these things, we've had abutters come and say, hey, we like a particular plant and we want to do this, and they're happy to add landscaping or do what they wish, and those conversations happen all the time. So with respect to your enforcement rights, we have to satisfy the regulations in the approved plan. But anytime there's any issue, either with your property or with ours, I would hope that people would have a conversation about it first and see if they could come to a meaningful resolution.
Sounds good.
And one more thing regarding the concern about people coming through Morrison. This retaining wall here is going to vary from around 5 to 15 feet along this edge. So it would probably be very difficult for people to actually come onto this street and view things over here. So landscaping probably won't help as much as the wall will to prevent that.
Great.
This is Dennis Gaudet from AutoServe. One of the things we didn't bring up was the fact that I believe this project is going to improve some of the quality of life on Morrison as well. At our previous meeting, we talked about the neighborhood watch and some of the crime. And I think those that live on Morrison remember when AutoServe stored all their cars there. The reason why we pulled those cars off were a significant amount of pilfering, and we actually had people living out in that space. So with this project now being developed and with that wall coming up, there's going to be a lot less of what was spilling onto Morrison for some of that petty crime that was happening in that unlit dock area. So I think that's going to be an improvement, and maybe we can retire the neighborhood watch after this gets done.
All right, any other comments from the public? All right, then I'll close the public and bring it back to the planning board.
May I make a few comments, Madam Chairman?
Yes.
First of all, this is Tim Chisuli again. My dad, I'm a second generation auto dealer, very much like Dennis Gaudet. My dad built a dealership in 1962, which was the Pontiac store. In 1973, I became a Pontiac dealer and used a site adjacent to this. Since that time, we have been very good neighbors with the surrounding people. We employ 170 people. We paid tens of millions of dollars of tax money to the town and have had a great relationship with all of our neighbors and with the town for a very long period of time. At that site, I've sold over 300,000 cars, one at a time, with very high levels of customer satisfaction. In 2007, I moved to New Hampshire because of the live free or die esprit de corps that New Hampshire has. On this site, we expect to employ 60 to 70 people. We will be investing, of course, now that we're off Morrison Avenue, which we did to be good neighbors with the people of Morrison. We're investing pretty close to $10 million, which is going to yield, God knows, well over $100,000 a year of tax, significantly more than the town is getting today. Respectfully, when I go into a town with an automobile dealership, and I've had 14 franchises in my career, I'm met with with some very friendly people that want us to come to their site. I look at this site that is vacant, that has got vandalism, and by the way, we will have full-time security system on the property, so that will go away. The wildlife that exists on this property right now are little rodents, which people on Morrison Avenue are not going to have to deal with anymore. We are going to substantially improve this property, and respectfully, I expected a far warmer reception than we've been getting. The reason we're here is because of Dennis Gaudette. There were other sites that we looked at that, quite frankly, are going to be cheaper to develop than this site. And I'd like to get this done. We've had so many meetings canceled for so many different reasons. If we can't get this thing going, I've got to look elsewhere. Respectfully.
At what point do you feel this is not moving forward since we're doing the site plan review currently?
Ma'am, I started this process. I've had a birthday. We've had meetings canceled because of 3 inches of snow, and then because of coronavirus, and because of this or that. I don't think there's too many applicants that are looking to bring businesses like this to Tilton that are going to help the town like we are, right in this time frame. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, and I appreciate your comments. And we're moving along as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
And that's why we're having the comments we're having now, so we can be much closer to a resolution when the zoning board meets. That's why we're doing this tonight, Tim.
New Jersey has it.
Thank you.
I'm rich.
All right, any more comments from the planning board?
Yes, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
We received the email today from TF Moran with the Conservation Commission engineering review response. What was the response from the ZBA and the Conservation Commission on that email? Do we have that yet?
I haven't seen it. Have you?
Judy, I don't know what the question was. I'm sorry. You're looking for what?
I want to know what the response was from the Conservation Commission and the ZBA on the email we got this morning.
Which email? I'm still not following you. What you're looking for? I'm sorry.
Conservation Commission and engineering review response to comments.
Okay.
Have we heard back yet from the ZBA or the Conservation Commission? And do we expect to hear that when they go back into ZBA?
I would say we go back to the ZBA.
And what about Conservation Commission?
I don't know that they're meeting with the Conservation Commission again. They met with Conservation Commission already. They are going back to ZBA, so I'm not.
And are we going to have Keach Nordstrom review this?
Steve Keach is actually at the meeting right now. If you have any questions for Steve, he is at the meeting. So you can ask him any question you like.
Well, have you forwarded this to him for his review since we hired him to do the review?
Yep, he has it. Yep.
I got it today.
Okay. Yep. And this is a question more, I think, to the applicant. Have you seen the report we got from Keach Nordstrom on April 20th? Okay,
yes,
so you know that.
I discussed it with him, and I agree with all of his terms.
Awesome. So you've already addressed those things.
Yes, and in that letter regarding the engineering review and conservation commission response to comments, towards the end, I mentioned that we were willing to respond to all of his comments.
Excellent. Thank you, Hannah.
Necessary too. And going back to the Conservation Commission comments, we met with the Conservation Commission, and they provided the comments to us and to the planning board as an advisory committee. They do not have jurisdiction within for this property, since we are not altering the wetland or wetland buffer. But we are interested in what they had to say and want to assure that we're meeting the erosion control and stormwater standards and their requests.
I think you
Thank
made
you.
you made changes on snow removal too, didn't you? Based on their request.
Yes. Yep. The snow storage we're going to expand, and we're also going to provide some signage to prevent any snow going over the embankment from our snow removal teams. And I think there might have been a couple other things. We're going to add the oil water separators where appropriate as well.
So will you be sending out another set of plans with the Steve Keach's recommendations for cleaning up the plans themselves for us?
Yes, and that can be a condition of approval if necessary too.
All right, any other comments from the planning board? Well, I think we appreciate your presentation, Hannah, and your comments, Tim. And I guess our next move then is to wait until we hear from the zoning board and then come up with a plan to move forward. Is everybody agreeable to that?
Yes. Am I the only agreeable one?
Well, unfortunately for them, they have been delayed a little bit, but it is in the hands of the zoning board because of them tabling a couple things. But looking at all aspects from my perspective, I think that that everything that they're trying to do meets all of our needs, and obviously we're not going to vote on it, but I do think that it's a approval in my mind going forward, just so that they know. So that's my input.
Any other comments? All right.
I have just a question, a procedural question, if I may, Jane. So procedurally now, we've held a public hearing. We haven't found completeness. I'm not sure how to proceed with continuing this. I might even like to ask for some advice because this seems a little unprecedented to me on what we're doing here. And I would like to ask Mr. Keach if he is the planner in another town as well, if he can weigh in on this for me.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. What I would recommend that the board do is, given the decision that's apparently been made not to entertain a motion to dispose of this application this evening, that you continue it to a date certain that's subsequent to the anticipated continuance of the zoning board proceeding, and meeting immediately subsequent to the ZBA meeting, get them back and get it done.
That's what I would think we would do, Leanne.
Yeah. I would recommend that you announce, for the benefit of those attendants, and to maintain the chain of notice without having to renotice again, what that date and time is. That you establish it and announce it now.
Okay, and Leanne, what was that date that we said?
It's the Tuesday following the zoning board, which would be the 26th.
The 26th. So we will continue this until the 26th.
Should we make that a motion?
We
You
should,
need a motion.
I'll
yes,
make a motion that we continue, planning board cases at 2002.
Correct.
correct.
2002 to Tuesday, May 26, 2020.
At 6:30 p.m.
At
I'll second
6:30
that.
p.m. It may be in person, it may be like this.
All right, roll call vote. Alden, yes.
Byron, yes.
yes.
Tilton, yes.
Odell, yes.
And I think Fred left. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm glad we went forward.
Thank you very
Madam.
much, everyone. I really appreciate you taking a look at this project. We put a lot of time and effort and money into it, and we want to be very good neighbors to all those surrounding us, especially the people on Morrison.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe. All right. Next order of business is approval of minutes for March 31st, 2020. Has everybody had a chance to review those? The one thing I think is that's absent is that we did have a member who resigned, Leanne, and there was no mention of that.
She didn't, you're talking about, am I got my mic on? Yeah, I'm sorry. So you're talking about, so Juliet, the resignation of Juliet during the meeting?
Yeah.
Right, but then you called it out of order, so it was just negated, and then the resignation came after the meeting, so that was
No, it
submitted.
came under new business. That was still during the meeting. That was during new business.
I think she said, just correct me if I'm wrong, Judy, is that when somebody said, are you still resigning? And she said yes, and then Jane said, well, you have to do that to the selectmen. So, I mean, I guess I can put that little conversation in the minutes, but the actual resignation went to the selectmen in writing. So it didn't go, I thought it was, she said it had to go to the selectmen, so I didn't. But if you want me to add that back and forth conversation about it, I can.
That's a significant incident when a member leaves our board, and it should be noted in our minutes.
Sure, I can add that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments about the minutes?
Oh, you stole mine.
Pardon?
You stole mine.
I don't know if Chuck Mitchell is still online. Are you still online, Chuck? Chuck? No. Anyway, okay. He sent me an email while you were just talking, saying he couldn't get on to speak. So I just wanted to let you know that. I just saw it come up across my screen. He sent me an email.
Okay. It didn't show that he left. It shows that he's still here. And the speaker's on.
Chuck Mitchell, are you there?
It keeps going on and off.
Oh, so yeah, so that's why he was trying to.
Leanne,
Yeah.
Leanne, let me see if I can fix that. 1 second. He shows as unmuted.
He does on mine too.
Yeah, he's on mine too. There's still quite a few people on the call. Janice Della Croce.
Oh, she's one of my staff. So let's see.
Oh.
Nicole
Smith. Mark and Sally Boucher. Caller 11.
So I just got Kathy Mitchell just said at 9:21, it's 9:23. She said Chuck has been trying to express an opinion online and has not been able to access it. So.
Yeah, I told him to try it again or to call in.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I've been trying to comment for the last half hour. And during the time, because the Conservation Commission never received the updated report today, Leanne, that you did. And I'm not sure it went out to the ZBA. And I just think it's kind of a misrepresentation to have stuff floating around out there in the public domain that the Conservation Commission has never seen.
So Chuck, just to clarify, I sent you the TF Miranda, not TF Miranda, the Keach documents I know today. I don't send my comments to anyone except to the planning board because my comments are directed to the planning board. If you would like to see my comments, I'd be glad to forward them to you. I don't give them to anyone else except the planning board, but I certainly can send you a copy in the future if you're interested.
Leanne, I'm specifically referring to the TF Moran response to the Conservation Commission.
You didn't get that today? That came out today. That came in today. So I didn't know you didn't get that. I thought she sent that to you. I can get that to you.
I just think if it's all part of the process that TF Moran is responding to the Conservation Commission, that we would have at least had a copy of that, as well as the updated plans, which we did not get.
Right. Well, I apologize. I thought you did get that from TF Moran because it was about conservation. So I will forward that to you.
And for what it's worth, there were some serious inaccuracies in the response in the first paragraph of the letter, which I did not get. We did not meet with TF Moran in January. We did not advise them in February. And there is a lot of misinformation in that report, so you need to take that to the bank. And I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, Chuck's left now. Leanne, you made notes of that so you can send that information on to him?
Yes, I will. Did we have a motion on the minutes, by the way? I know we were talking about it. I might have missed it with all that communication. Can I just ask if someone made a motion on minutes?
I don't think you missed it.
I think we got interrupted. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Roll call vote. Alden, yes.
Tilton, yes.
Abstain, Todd, I was not there.
Ira, yes.
Zambitsky, yes.
All right. Do we have any other business to bring before the board?
I just wanted to comment. I'm sorry. That during that call, there was a lot of whispering sound, and I really felt it was inappropriate because you could hear it was almost like someone was saying something under their breath. So please make sure that you're muting if you're not talking, because I don't know if the applicant heard it, but I think it was unprofessional of anyone if it was anyone on our board. But there were some comments, so it was tough to hear.
I don't know who it was. I heard it too, but I don't have a clue who it was.
I totally agree. I think it was very inappropriate, and it
wasn't as bad as the first part where they dropped the F-bomb.
Right.
I have no idea who that was.
The only thing I have under other business is we're scheduled for a meeting, 2 meetings in May. Are we going to stick with the one meeting at the end of the month that you just continued to the 26th? Or are you going to have a meeting? We usually have 2 meetings in May, so I don't know what the pleasure of the board is.
Board, what's your pleasure?
Do we have any cases?
The only case, McGee, but they're not really complete. She hasn't brought in her check, and she's missing a site plan, so I'm trying to get that from her. That McGee is the one on the sober house. But we certainly can hear her on the 26th as well if you want to do that. So whatever you want to do.
It's up to you.
I would say at this point, that one meeting with, given the situation and how difficult the meetings come across, is probably a better situation. Any other thoughts?
Any other thoughts on that?
I'll agree in one meeting.
Yeah, that's good input. I agree.
Well, my only concern is this one's been 3 hours.
We
So,
covered a lot of ground though.
yeah, we did. I just
Covered
hope
a
that,
lot of ground, and I think because of this meeting, there won't be so much the next time.
well, hopefully we're in person the next time.
Yeah,
Well, let's hope.
I hope.
But I think everybody on the board
I'll make
have
a
their
motion then
questions
to have.
answered.
I'll make a motion then to have one meeting in May. Is
I'll
there a
second.
second?
May 20.
All in favor? Roll call. Alden, yes.
Odell, yes.
Tilton, yes.
Ira, yes.
Dembski, yes.
So be it. All right. Are there any other comments to come before the board? Any public online that would like to comment? Not, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call vote. Alden, yes.
Odell,
Tilton,
yes.
yes.
Ira, yes.
Dembski, yes.
Tilton?
Yes, I said it same time as Todd.
Okay. Okay. All right. Stay safe.
Good
You
night,
too.
everyone.
See all of you soon.
Thanks,
Bye.
Kim.
Okay, good night.
Thanks.
Good night, Kim.
Good night.
What do I do?